Okay, so the next stage of this is to develop the body work a little bit more, and I'm not going to bother with the other side of this vehicle because we're not going to see it, so I'm just going to leave this side as it is and just concentrate on this side. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is to get a side view of the car and swap back to orthographic view. I'll change my shader again for the body to my default grey just because it's a little bit easier to see. Now you notice the problem here with the wheels obviously intersecting, and we need to sort this out. I could pull the wheel inwards, but what I'm going to do is to pull some wheel arches out over the top of this wheel. So I'll need the pose tool for this one, and make sure that my circle lasso is selected, and obviously the body is selected here, and I'll just try and eyeball the center point. Doesn't really need, because if you hold, doesn't have to be dead center. You can draw out your circle shape, hold shift, and then move this around after the fact. So just try and get it reasonably in the middle there, expand it out a little bit more, and just move it over and release. And did it do it? Let's have a look. I'll just snap to the front view and align to view and see if this worked. Didn't really do much on that one, so I'll have to try that again. It is doing something. You can see where it's starting to pull out, but I need a little bit more than that. So let's undo and clear the selection. Probably what I need to do as well here is just to raise this wheel arch a little bit more using the move tool. So I'll choose the move tool from down here, expand my brush, make sure I've got a nice soft alpha selected, and hit symmetry. I want to do both sides in the X, and I'll just disable the show the symmetry plane, and I'm just going to lift this up here like so. Let's do it again. Let's get a little bit more centralized on the view and just lift this up. So pull it out over there. And at this concept stage, it's a good thing just to rough out shapes. You can always go back and retopologize this and make it, you know, much more accurate after, but it's the speed of 3D Coat which is really useful at this stage, just for blocking out good forms. So at this stage, now I've raised this up a little bit, let's go back and repeat that operation that I did before. So I'll roughly get my cursor in the middle. I'll keep this softer alpha on as well, see if that helps me any. Roughly in the middle, pull the marquee out. Am I roughly in the middle? And release. See if that one works. Align to view. Let's pull that out. That's a little bit better. Okay, it's enough. So I'll just keep pulling these forms out here. Something like that. Looks a bit ugly, but never mind. Let's drop the tool. And do the same on the other side. Pose tool. So marquee. Roughly in the middle. Hold the shift down to just reposition. And let go. sure we've got a line to view. Whoops. Okay, I've picked up a little bit more of this one now because I forgot to deselect that side. So let's do this one again. Undo. Clear that selection completely. And repeat this one. So into the center, out, adjust, something like that. Align to view. That's better. Now I'm pulling that side out there. So I'm just covering over that wheel arch like that. Okay, it looks rough at the moment, but that's fine. We can always smooth it out. Clear the selection and double check what your sample size is. We're still okay. And I'm just going to go to smooth on this one now. Hit spacebar, hit smooth all. Just to take some of that edge off. That rough edge that you can see on there. So I've repeated that 3 times so far, and that should be okay. And now I'll start to just trim off this access here. So for this, I'll go to the top view and use the cutoff tool. Like so. Change to a rectangular marquee instead. And it's just worth pointing out at this stage that we know that we make sure depth limit is off. And I'm just going to draw out a marquee here and just trim that side off. So it's just going to remove all the voxels inside there, and then I get something, just wait for the computer, I get something like this. Okay, it's not too bad. Right, let's do the same for the other side now. Zoom in. Use the same tool again. Down a little bit more. Okay, that's fine. And this time I'll swap to the side view, change the marquee over to a circular marquee here, and just using my brush size here, which is the yellow circle, to just position roughly in the center where I think the center of the wheel is. Again, don't worry if it's not perfect. And use this, and this is going to sort of cut all the way through. Just reposition, shrink it down a little bit, and let go. And then it'll just cut through the hole. Now you see here, it actually doesn't look too bad, but you can see how it started to poke through and cut through the body. I don't want that. So what I'll do is just undo, and this is where the depth limit comes on, because I don't want it to punch a hole right the way through. I want to limit it. So let's just stick with this value for now, and let's see where that gets us. So I'll open out the marquee, position, and let go. See what effect that's had. A little better. Still getting some poke through on there where it started to cut through that wheel arch, and I can undo and reduce this down a little bit more, maybe to something like 50. See what that does. Let go. That's better. That's better. You can see the depth that went to, that setting of roughly 50, just pulled it to there and didn't cut all the way through, and you can see underneath how deep that cut went. That's fine. So that's that side done. Let's do the same on this side. This is going to have a slightly bigger wheel arch on here, so now I know that setting's roughly okay. I think we'll be able to get away with it on this side, maybe a little bit more. Yep, that's fine. That's fine for now. So I'm happy with that. The next stage now is to just smooth this out again, and just to help it along a little bit. So we'll repeat those commands where just drop out of that tool and smooth all again. You can see it's slowly kind of getting rid of all that roughness around that wheel arch. Repeat this a few times. Yeah, looking okay. Getting a nice smooth transition there between that cut and that wheel arch that we pulled out initially. And you just bear in mind at this stage that we haven't actually done any sculpting at all, and I've got a pretty good shape here already. However, now that those are done, now we are going to move into the sculpting stage of this vehicle. Let's just check where we're up to in terms of shaders and how it looks with this shader on. You can see here what I'm looking for. What I want you to notice is this nice highlight along here, and now it's sort of coming down here. These are the kind of shapes that I want with the lighting. So that's giving me a good understanding of how the lights sort of been affected. You can see that probably I need to do quite a few more smooths to get this looking nice, but for the purposes of just putting together a very quick understanding of the vehicle, I think we can do this pretty quickly, just using the techniques that we've got so far. Okay, now I am in orthographic, so that's why it looks a little bit strange there. So you can see, let's move in, let's move across like so. Not too bad. Okay, so the next stage, as I said, is now to sort of sculpt this body a little bit more. I can now switch. I can stay into voxel mode if I want to. In fact, some of the tools are really good. For example, the fill tool here. Let's have a look how this one might do. I'm going to just quickly go back to the grey shader that I like to work with. And so here I've got this horrible sort of dent in here, so I can sort of use the fill tool here, which is sort of filling some voxels into this space, just smoothing out that transition of surface. I can sort of do that, pull it round like so, and then by holding shift down on the keyboard you can see that my cursor turns yellow, and green in the center, and I can just smooth this out a little bit more. So this is, like I said before, this is where the sculpting is starting now to really kick in, and knowing the other tools that I've got available is going to be really handy. Let's try the same operation on the back of the car. So I'm going to hit Shift Z on the keyboard just to zoom in on this part so I can rotate around this particular part I want to work on. Again, fill is selected. Just make this a little bit larger, get my positioning right so I can do a stroke right the way down and smooth transition right the way down there. I'm not going to go all the way down. Now, to help you with this, and particularly with automotive design, you really need to have lovely smooth strokes. You do have a thing called steady stroke on here. The higher this value that you've got here, the more steady that stroke is, and it'll lag behind, but it does really help you to create smooth transitions right the way over. Now this jittering that you can see here is just my computer. It's so slow that it's kind of trying to catch up with my with my brush stroke, but that's okay. I'm sure your computer is more powerful than this one, and you can see that I can still kind of get away with sculpting this even with my computer in the state it's in. So just trying to get rid of that little, make that arch a little bit nicer just around there. Okay, I might just try and fill that little bit in there. Okay, that's not too bad. So I'm going to turn steady stroke off now, and whoops, we're gone. Zoom in here, shift on the keyboard, and just try and smooth that down again. Now the more brush strokes that you add to this, potentially the more kinks and disruption of the smooth surface you're going to get. So you have to try and get, if possible, a nice basic shape in there straight away, because be mindful that, you know, once you start sculpting away at this, you can produce artifacts on there rather, that can just kink the surface a little bit, and then you're in correction mode, trying to re-smooth out the errors that you've made on there through your brush strokes. So you can see here that I've smoothed that wheel arch out now, and that's looking pretty good. So just wait for the computer, there we go, and let's try, just check that out with a different shader. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yep, that's not too bad at all. So at this stage we can start to do things like the front of the car, the actual windows in the car as well. You can see here that I'm already getting, because of the shader that I'm using, I'm already getting a kind of indication of where that arch should be for the window. And that's what it's all about when it comes to designing these things, is following the lines and following those natural lines and curves that during the design process. So at this point, okay, I'm not going to worry too much about this. It's a detailing thing, and I don't really want to get into too much detailing. But let's just look at a few other options just before we wrap this up. So let's think about the front of this vehicle first of all, and see if I can create some kind of light or some more details on the front of the car. So to do this, I'm going to switch from a voxel mode here by checking this V here, and then I'll go into surface mode, and that gives me a whole range of tools that I can use down here, presets, and I kind of like these ones down here, the clay, trim, polish, and let's just have a look at them and see what they do, what kind of effect they have. Again, I'm going to go back to my grey shader here, and let's just start making some marks on this, like so. Again, this is a design part of this, so you know, feel free to kind of do your own designs and come up with your own shapes for the front. Like I said, I don't really want to get into this too much because it's just, you know, it just takes a long time to sort of come up with something that I'm happy with. Just looking around, I can come into here, hold the Alt key down, smooth this out, just put a few more voxels in there. I'll use the clay build tool, hold the Alt key down, see which one. It's not really having much effect on that one. Just smooth that out. Nice line appearing underneath. Come into the top here, use a soft polish. Some of the brushes are quite harsh, and it's a good thing, you know, you can just come in and see how they work, and do you like it, do you not? It not does what you're after. Smooth out these portions here. Don't like this ridge on the top here. So we can sort of start to fashion some sort of lights at the front of the car. But again, be mindful that you've got to make it look cool, you've got to try and make the lines flow into one another. So any harsh edges like this need to be removed, and you need to get nice flowing lines working if you want to get, you know, a vehicle that's half decent to look at. So you can see here that I've got quite a few selections of tools that I can use. Let's just go back. So using the clay brush to actually build up a surface here. Holding Alt down, cut into the surface, maybe make something like that. If I want something much stronger, so let me change my alpha here. Slightly better, it's a bit smoother, that is. Maybe I could use the same brush here, or yeah, I'll just use the same one, just bring it down a little bit, and sort of I can start to think about maybe a design across the top of the car here, how that would sort of come around. Again, just don't be afraid of just drawing on a quick sketch to see how that would look. You can always undo it, and or you can come around and see if you can make more of a feature like this. So another thing that you could do on these type of concepts is to use the pose tool that we used before, and let's just quickly show you that. It's the same thing that we did on the wheel arches, where you just choose a spline here, spline setting, and we can just start to draw some shapes using splines to get to remove that kind of error that we would get using a brush. And just exit that and just move this around, see if we can get a nice shape with that. If I'm happy with that, then I can hit enter on the keyboard, go to the front of the car, align to view. Let's just press escape just to get rid of the center to mass. Maybe I could pull this up. And bring that around. Bring it down. You can see I can get a completely different shape and completely different look to the car with that. I've probably gone a little bit too high with there, But you can see here that I get a nice alternative shape there that I can start to smooth down, to mold into the car. Let's just undo that. Clear the selection. Clear. Did it clear? No. Clear. Doesn't seem to want to clear that. Let's just go back to that tool. There we go. I think that's done it now. Okay, so it's not great at the moment. It needs a lot more work at the front, but I don't really want to go into detailing this too much at this stage. It's not really what this tutorial is about. It's just really getting those shapes in and to give you a good foundation in terms of the body of the car, the wheels of the car, and to show you what can actually be done. Let's just move around to the back here and just show you one more tool, and then we'll wrap this up. Zoom in, hold Shift Z, gets me closer. So I'm just going to try and make some sort of a light fitting now using a different tool on here. I'll go back to my voxels, and I'll go and choose, let's have a look, one of these ones, I think. Vox layer, I think I'll choose. Now I'll use this 3D marquee again, and I'll come in here and I'll just quickly draw a sort of rear light on this thing. Escape, just move it around a bit. Something like that will do. Don't forget you can right click to sharpen these points up if you need to, which helps with the design to design the shape of the light. Something like that. And hit OK on the keyboard. That makes a selection for me. Probably just undo that and change the alpha to something a bit sharper. I want this to be a little bit sharper. So there we go. And in my tool options here, then I'll just hit apply. Now this, if you look in the Vox tree here, it's created a new shape for me. I'll just hit escape just to drop that tool, and there you can see I've got my lights on there. So I'll need to just clear that selection. Should have done that before I did that. There we go. So at this stage I've got this extra layer now that you can see, and I can work this layer now and maybe just make a reflective, tail light on this. So I'll go over to my shaders. I've got a shader set up somewhere here. I think it was a smart material that I created for it. I can't remember. Quick look for this. I think it was this one. That's the one. There. So I've got this here, and with that now selected, I can come back to the body and start to use some of the tools again. Switch back to my other mode here and start to take a look at some of these options here. That was a really nice one called Draw Edge, and I could just start to draw around this just to show some indication of molding around the light itself. There's many different ways of doing this. We could have used the pose tool and just indented. but you can see here that we could start to really define a nice molding around the light, like so. Like everything else, don't really want to overdo it, but you can see the potential there of that. And that's if I did the same thing underneath. Remember, this is not affecting the light itself, it's only affecting the body layer underneath. So I'm being a bit rough and ready at the moment, but you can see that taking shape there. And the last thing we can have a quick look at is just to change and just to show you how to make a kind of a panel cut, if you like, in the vehicle. We can do something like this, where we take crease clay. You have to be in surface mode to use this. And I could just start to draw on this. Ensure it's not really affecting that much. Can't really see what that's doing. Let's just undo that one. Try and choose a different one. There was a really nice one down here. I can't remember what it was. Most of these ones will actually work fine. For example, the sci-fi one, let's just take a look and see what it does. Okay, it's really harsh. It's a really harsh line there. So you can always reduce that down, or try a different one. Each one has its own properties set with it. I think HD sharp. No, that didn't work. That one's okay. That one kind of works. Needs a little bit of tweaking with the settings on the brush to just get it exactly how I want it. And of course, don't forget, steady stroke will help you to create a nice smooth sort of shape there for the body. And you can also cut out your window shapes, etc., using this tool as well. Now just start to work on the design of the actual windows and how it may appear, and just get used to kind of drawing on these. Okay, you've got mistakes down here, but that's fine. It's just a sketch on top of the model to see how it would look. You can always just undo it and get rid of it. So that's about it for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.